The weight of a response. The gym was silent except for the rhythmic sound of fists hitting the punching bag and the whistle of wind coming in through the high windows. Joe Frazier, with his arms crossed and sweat still running down his forehead after an intense session, watched Bruce Lee with that curious look of someone who had already seen a lot, but still didn't understand everything. "Hey," Bruce Frazier called, his voice hoarse from shouting instructions to his fighters. "Everyone talks about your skills, the way you move, your speed. But tell me one thing, what is your greatest talent? What makes you, you?" Bruce stopped stretching his neck and turned slowly, as if the question required more than a quick answer. His eyes, always alive, fixed on Frazier with an intensity that made the heavyweight champion feel a chill. It wasn't arrogance. It was something deeper, as if Bruce was about to reveal a secret that not even he himself had completely deciphered. "My greatest talent," he began, his voice low, almost a whisper, "is not the kick, nor the punch, nor the speed. It is the ability to empty." Frazier frowned. "Empty?" Bruce nodded, approaching. "When I enter the ring, or any fight, I don't take anything with me. No anger, no fear, no rigid plan. Just the moment. The body moves by instinct, because the mind is not occupied with what should be, but with what is." He raised his hands, palms up, as if holding something invisible. Most fighters carry the weight of expectations, of techniques they have memorized, of mistakes they don't want to repeat. I am not. I become the void. And the void cannot be reached. Frazier felt his breath hitch for a second. It wasn't an answer he expected. It wasn't about strength, nor about strategy, nor about any of the physical attributes that he, as champion, valued above all else. It was about something intangible, something he knew existed but had never stopped to name. "Are you saying you win because you don't think?" he asked, incredulously. Bruce smiled, a smile that wasn't mocking, but understanding. "It's not thinking. It's thinking too much in the wrong place. The fighter who worries about what the other is going to do, what the public expects, what he himself should be, has already lost before he even started. I'm just there. And when you're there, in one piece, with nothing to lose, the body does what needs to be done." Frazier was silent. He looked at his own hands, calloused from so much training, and for the first time he wondered if there was something beyond brute strength, beyond endurance, beyond technique. Bruce wasn't talking about martial arts. "I was talking about life." "So," Frazier murmured, almost to himself, "if I want to win like you, I have to learn to be nothing?" Bruce laughed, a light, almost musical sound. "No. You have to learn to be everything. But without getting attached to anything." He patted Frazier on the shoulder, a simple gesture, but one that carried the weight of a lesson that the champion would take years to understand. The greatest talent is not what you do. It's what you stop carrying. And with that, Bruce turned and went back to training, leaving Frazier standing in the middle of the gym, with the feeling that he had just heard something that would change not only the way he fought, but the way he saw the world. Final chapter, The Weight of the Void. Years passed, and Frazier became a legend. Not because of his invincibility, he lost fights, he bled, he was knocked down, but because of the way he got up. Each defeat was a mirror, each victory, a reminder. Bruce was right, the real fight was not against the opponent, but against the weight he carried inside himself. The last time he saw Bruce was at a tournament in Hong Kong. The master was already old, his movements were slow, but his eyes still burned with the same intensity. Frazier, now world champion, entered the ring against a young prodigy, a fighter with enormous strength and impeccable technique. The public expected a spectacle of violence. Frazier, however, knew that the fight had already begun long before the first blow. The young man attacked with fury, as if each punch was a debt to be collected. Frazier dodged, not with speed, but with a calmness that irritated his opponent. When the blow finally came, he didn't block, he just moved, letting the fist pass by the side of his face, as if the wind had deflected it. The young man stumbled, unbalanced by his own strength. Why don't you fight back? Growled his opponent, frustrated. Frazier smiled. Because you're already tired. And it was. With each wasted attack, the young man lost a little more of himself. When Frazier finally counterattacked, it wasn't with anger nor with technique, it was with a single blow, clean, precise, as if he knew exactly where the other was weak. The young man fell, not from the impact, but from the exhaustion of carrying so much hatred. After the fight, Bruce was waiting for him backstage, leaning on a cane. You understand, said the master, without asking. Frazier nodded. I learned not to carry anything. Neither victory nor defeat. Neither pride nor fear. Bruce smiled tiredly. Then you won. But Frazier knew that victory was not a title, nor a trophy. It was the lightness of waking up in the morning and not feeling the weight of the past, nor the anxiety of the future. It was fighting without being a fighter, living without being a prisoner of one's own expectations. Years later, when he no longer competed, Frazier opened a school. He didn't teach blows, but breathing. He didn't train bodies, but minds. His students arrived full of ambition, anger, and dreams of glory. He observed them, patiently, and said, the secret is not winning. It's no longer needing it. Some understood. Others left, frustrated. But those who stayed learned that the true martial art was not in the fists, but in the ability to let go. And so, Bruce's lesson was perpetuated, not as a technique, but as a way of existing. Light. Free. Empty of everything but the present moment. End. The weight of the void. Years had passed since Frazier last hung up his gloves. The school grew, not in size, but in silence. The dark wooden walls absorbed the students' sighs, their hesitant steps, the sound of their hands hitting the sandbag without force, as if each blow was an unanswered question. He did not charge monthly fees. He accepted what they gave him, sometimes money, sometimes a plate of food, sometimes just a look that said I still don't understand, but I want to try. Among those who stayed, there was a woman named Lena. She had arrived with raw knuckles, her eyes red from sleepless nights, pursued by an ex-husband who would find her sooner or later. Frazier offered him no protection. He didn't teach him personal defenses. He just pointed to the mat and said, breathe. And when you're done, breathe again. Lena hated that. I wanted movements, strategies, a plan. I wanted to feel like I could break bones if I needed to. But Frazier made her stand still, with her eyes closed, while the world outside continued to spin. You're not running away from him, he said. You're running away from yourself. She cried. He shouted. Once he threw a chair against the wall. Frazier didn't even blink. He just picked up the broom and swept up the pieces. Over time, Lena stopped looking at the door. He stopped calculating escape routes. He learned that breathing was not a tool, but a territory. A place where she could exist without being hunted. When her ex-husband finally showed up months later, she didn't run. He didn't fight. She just stood there, while he screamed, while the neighbors approached, while the police arrived. He kicked, cursed, tried to grab her. But Lena didn't move. And when they took him away, she realized that she felt no relief. Not afraid. Not anger. I felt the ground beneath my feet. The air coming in and out. The weight of one's own body, for the first time, not as a prison, but as an anchor. Frazier has aged. His hands, once quick as shadows, now trembled as he tied his shoelaces. The younger students called him Sensei, but he laughed. Sensei is the one teaching. I just remind you of what you already know. One day, a young man named Ren arrived at school. He had scars on his arms, a history of street fights, and a question that burned inside him: how do I never lose again? Frazier watched him for weeks. He didn't correct him when he missed his shots. Don't rush him when he gets distracted. Just waited. Until, one summer afternoon, Ren collapsed on the mat, exhausted, and shouted, "This doesn't work. I'm still scared." Frazier crouched down beside him. "Of course you do. Fear doesn't go away. It just stops being the only thing you hear." Ren looked at him, eyes moist. "So what's all this for?" Frazier smiled. "For you to discover that you don't need an answer." Frazier's last student was a child. He reached the age of 8, brought by his mother, who explained, embarrassed, that the boy couldn't speak. Not since his father left. Not since the words became stones in the throat. Frazier didn't ask anything. He just handed him a pair of gloves that were too small for his hands and pointed to the sandbag. The boy knocked. Once. 2. On the third blow, the gloves fell off. He kicked them, frustrated. Frazier didn't move. Waited. The boy hit again, this time with his bare hands, until his knuckles bled. Then it stopped. And cried. Not a loud cry, but one that comes from a place so deep there is no sound. Frazier approached. He didn't hug him. I didn't say everything would be fine. He just placed his hand on the boy's shoulder and whispered, "Sometimes, we need to break to remember that we're still whole." The boy looked at him. And, for the first time in months, he spoke. "It hurts." Frazier nodded. "I know." Frazier died one autumn morning. There was no warning, no illness. Just a sigh longer than the others, as if he had finally remembered to let go of something he had been carrying for a long time. The students gathered on the mat. Some cried. Others were silent. Lena brought flowers. Ren lit an incense. The boy, now older, wrote one word on the blackboard, "Take it." Years later, the school was still in operation. There were no signs on the door, no advertisements. People arrived because someone had told them that they could learn to breathe there. And, in fact, they learned. Not because someone taught them, but because, one day, someone showed them that the void was not a hole. It was a space. And spaces, after all, are made to be filled. Or not.